Welcome to the Neurokrish Immersion. In this episode, we're going to talk about the monk's brain. Imagine this. What if your brain could be calmer, clearer, and more focused, not through therapy or tech, but by simply living like a monk? What if ancient Zen wisdom could actually rewire your brain? In the next 20 minutes, we'll dive into the intersection of neuroscience and mindfulness and explore how you can begin transforming your mind today. Have you ever felt that your mind is constantly on overdrive? What would it mean to you if you could quiet it down on demand? Now, here's a true story. In 2002, a Tibetan Buddhist monk named Mingyo Rinpoche traveled over 7,000 miles from his hilltop monastery in Nepal to the University of Wisconsin, home to one of the world's most advanced brain labs. Led by the neuroscientist Richard Davidson, the researchers studied Rinpoche's brainwaves while he meditated on compassion. The results? So extraordinary they thought the equipment was broken. When Rinpoche meditated, there was a burst of electrical activity that sustained for the full duration of his compassion meditation. And this was not a one time, it was repeated across multiple sessions. His fMRI studies, or functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, at that time showed that the brain's empathy circuits were 700 to 800 times more active during meditation than during rest. And this wasn't a one-off. 21 other monks studied at the same time showed similar patterns. What was even more fascinating was that all the monks showed elevated gamma brain wave activity, not while meditating, but also during rest. Gamma waves are the fastest brainwave frequency, linking diverse brain regions into coherent patterns, and they've been associated with exceptional intelligence, with peak experiences, with deep compassion, with focus and enhanced memory. Ask yourself, have you ever had such a moment of flow or clarity in which you almost felt superhuman? Well, that could have been your gamma in action. How do you then have monk-like awareness all day long? What these monks showed were ongoing states of awareness. And what this demonstrated to us was that it wasn't just daily meditation relaxing the mind, it rewired their brain circuits, regulating attention, emotion, and empathy. The challenge to you is, could 10 minutes of daily mindfulness begin changing your brain too? Ask yourself that question. Now, what then is the monk's brain? It's a metaphor for how contemplative practice reshapes the brain. It's rooted in Zen philosophy, mindfulness, and in modern neuroscience, for which today there's a big interface developing. And it's been backed by studies on long-term meditators. You'll find a lot of resources of this nature cited in the visual guide to my podcast. And if you'd like to see the visual guide, please look at this on YouTube. But otherwise, you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, on Apple, and on YouTube. A neuroscientist and a Buddhist monk, Zoran Josipovic, says, meditation cultivates attentional skills that help lead to a tranquil and happier way of being. In advanced meditators, the neural wall between the self and the environment becomes thinner, creating a harmony between the mind and the surroundings. Now let that sink in. The brain reorganizes to feel more connected with the world when you meditate. Neuroplasticity is something that meditation seems to leverage on. So what is neuroplasticity? It's your brain's ability to change with experience. And believe me, the brain is an extremely plastic organ. It is very subject to change. Now, there are two types of meditation that have been studied in depth. One is focused attention, sustained focus on one object, and the other is open monitoring, OM, which is observing moment to moment experiences without reacting. Both these and their impact on the brain have been beautifully reviewed by the expert Dr. Richard Davidson in his article Buddha's Brain, Neuroplasticity and Meditation, which I am citing now. Now, the functional MRI and EEG studies have shown that even after a few months of meditation training, people show less emotional reactivity, more balanced attention, structural and functional brain changes. What seems better to you? Focused attention, meditation, FA, where you sustain focus on a single object. For example, imagine a light or a candle and meditate on it. Or open monitoring meditation, OM, which is observing moment to moment experiences around you without reacting. All you have to do is try both. Close your eyes, imagine a candle, focus, and still yourself. That is FA. Close your eyes, take in every sound, every feeling, everything that you can perceive, but don't react to it. That is OM. You can try these, and let's find out which is more intuitive for you. Now, both these types of meditation have a role to play in critical brain structures, especially what's called the default mode network. And if you see the visual guide, you can see both the temporoparietal region, the insula, and the lateral sulcus. All these are parts of the default mode network in our brains. Similarly, on the medial side of the brain, you can see the amygdala, and the amygdala is our center of emotion. Stilling the amygdala has a lot to do with controlling emotional responsivity. Now, the default mode network is active when your mind is wandering. And what meditation seems to do is to suppress the default mode network. It makes it more inactive. In ADHD, for example, where people are hyperactive and impulsive, the default mode network is overactive, making focus difficult. Monks seem to learn how to switch this network off at will, and that really seems to be the secret of repeated meditation. Now, in the Buddha's Brain study, novices and experts performed the FA meditation while looking at a point. Experts seem to show stronger brain activity in areas of monitoring and attention. Interestingly, there was a learning curve, which was a U-shaped curve, in that people with 19,000 hours of meditation practice showed more activation than even people with 44,000 hours of meditation practice, veterans. This suggests that there's not just a sweet spot for mastery of meditation, but there is a U-shaped learning curve, much like learning language or any other thing. Your brain, therefore, can be trained to meditate. Experts also had lower amygdala activity when exposed to emotional sounds, meaning they stayed calm under stress. I'm going to take a moment to remind you of what we learnt during the Godfather Paradox podcast earlier in the series. Here too, experts, and those were experts who were engaging in focused violence, bomb defusal. In that circumstance too, the brain became still. So stillness seems to be a very interesting quality which bridges monk-like meditative focus with the learned meditative focus of people in critical professions. There's another test that the paper by Davidson reviews. In Om meditation research, they looked at the attentional blink test. And what they found was meditators trained in Vipassana were better at catching second targets in rapid visual streams, whereas others were more likely to miss second targets. In other words, if there were two stimuli, a person not trained in meditation would miss the second stimulus, whereas the person trained in meditation was much more likely to catch it. And what this suggests is that OM practice, open meditation practice, reduces the tendency to get mentally stuck and enhances real-time awareness. The paper also talks about gamma synchrony in action, that expert meditators produced high amplitude, sustained gamma band oscillations. Gamma waves were not just during meditation, but also at baseline. And this indicated a permanent shift in the brain's default mode, not just a temporary state. Did you know that gamma waves help unify cognition and emotion across distant brain regions, like a symphony conductor for the brain? The power of gamma waves can be unlocked perhaps through repeated meditation. So, how does neuroscience meet Zen? Meditation increases gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, a region which is very important for human emotion and the social brain. It reduces amygdala reactivity. It builds compassion circuits, the insula and the temporoparietal junction, and rituals lower anxiety via predictable structure. A more recent study looked at brain-heart interactions underlying traditional Tibetan Buddhist meditation. And again, if you're looking at the visual guide, you'll see my references. Your brain and heart can actually be in synchrony, says the study. And what they showed was that long-term Tibetan Buddhist monks, when they meditate, actually change the way their brains listen to their own heartbeats. Using fMRI and EEG, the researchers again saw that the default mode network briefly shifts its activity in time with each heartbeat during meditation. Brainwave patterns in theta and gamma bands reorganize across large brain networks when they meditate. The strength of certain slow wave connections decreases the more years of meditation experience someone has, and fast gamma waves become tightly linked to slow theta waves only during meditation. And the researchers conclude, altogether, these findings mean that meditation not only changes how different parts of the brain talk to each other, but also how the brain and heart communicate, and that with more practice, these changes become deeper and more lasting. So I've given you many instances of research, starting from the early Rinpoche studies to more recent studies, which pretty much show the same things with greater and greater precision. And if you look at this paper in Cerebral Cortex 2020, you will actually be able to see pictures of how brain activity on fMRI changes with meditation and how much stillness is produced through meditation. Let's review Leo Babuta's 12 monk rules. What helps monks meditate? What helps people live the Zen life? These are not religious, they are practical rules. The first rule, do one thing at a time. When eating, eat. When walking, walk. The second, do it slowly and deliberately. Third, do it completely. Fourth, do less. Focus brings depth. The fifth, put space between things. Don't overschedule. Learn to breathe. The sixth, develop rituals. Repetitive actions, however boring, are stilling to the mind and induce a sense of meditation. 7. Designate time for things. Have a schedule. 8. Devote time to sitting. Zazen is practicing presence. 9. Smile and serve others. 10. Make cleaning and cooking mundane activities a meditation. There is mindfulness, believe me, in mundane, repetitive tasks when they are done with mental stillness. 11. Reflect on what is necessary. We tend to clutter not just our lives but also our minds. 12. Live simply. Mindfulness includes doing away the excess that we tend to surround ourselves with. Which of these rules feels hardest to you? Which one excites you? Now, how do these Zen habits link to neuroscience? The do one thing rule. You enhance attention, you lower your brain cortisol. The do less rule. You free mental bandwidth. The sit daily rule. You reduce your default mode network activity. You improve your attention. The make cleaning a ritual rule. It elevates something that is routine to something that is sacred. Do one thing also quiets distraction. It's transformative. Do less helps you fight being overwhelmed. Sitting helps you reset your brain networks. Making cleaning a meditation finds peace in the mundane. Ask yourself, what one monk rule will I try this week? Can I slow down just one routine like brushing my teeth or walking? Here's a challenge for you. Try one habit, 1 week. In each week, try a new habit and then reflect which one worked for you. As we come to the end of the podcast, let's try a moment of mindfulness. Sit comfortably with your arms on your lap. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let your thoughts pass like clouds. Be here now. Thank you for listening.